Instructional phonetics. I'm Mohsen Rezazadeh. Currently, I'm an assistant professor. In the previous session, we talked about the difference between phonetics and phonology. If you remember, we also talked about IPA and different transcriptions of consonants and vowels. I also showed you the consonant and vowel charts. We also talked about diacritics, and I have introduced some diacritics. If you remember, diacritics were small marks that can be added to a symbol to modify its value. For example, we have diacritics for dental stops, or for voiceless sound, or for sounds that represent longer sounds. We also talked about different types of transcriptions. We said that we have broad, narrow, and impressionistic transcription. Broad transcription or phonemic, narrow transcription or phonetic, and impressionistic transcription, in which there is an unknown language and the symbols show only the phonetic value of the sounds. Today, I'm going to talk about stop consonants. Look at this table and try to answer this question. What is the difference between the words in the first and a second column? As you can see, in the first column there are three words: pie, tie, and kai. In the second column, buy, die, and guy. Now, consider the difference between the words in the first column and the corresponding words in the second column. What comes to your mind according to what we had said before? You can say that, yes, the first column has voiceless stops and the second column has voiced stops, like p, t, k. These are voiceless, and b, d, g. These are voiced, and all of them are stops. Do you remember stops? P, t, because there is a stop and then we have free flow of air. We release it. This is why we call it a stop. Another difference is that the first column has aspirated stops, but the second column is unaspirated. This opposition may be said to be between the set of voices stop consonants and the set of voice stop consonants, but the difference is really not just one of voicing during the consonant closure. As you can see, by saying these words yourself, most people have very little voicing going on while the lips are closed during either pie or buy. When the lips are closed, we don't have voicing. P, like pie or buy. This voicing happens when the voice is released. As I said, another major difference between the two is related to aspiration. In the following slides, I will talk about aspiration. What is aspiration? Aspiration is a period of voicelessness after the release of the stop. It's the burst of air at the start of pie, tie, and kai. Aspiration is shown by a small raised H, as you can see. Look at these examples, the transcriptions of pie, tie, and kai. Since in tie and kai, the stop closures are made inside the mouth cavity, so you may not feel the burst of air. Compare it with pie and buy. Here in tie and kai, stop closures are made inside the mouth, so we can't feel it. As you can see in this slide, both stop consonants are essentially voiceless. In pi, after the release of the lip closure, there is a moment of aspiration. A period of voicelessness after the stop is called aspiration. If you put your hand in front of your lips while saying pi, you can feel the burst of air that comes out during the period of voicelessness after the release of the stop. In a narrow transcription, aspiration can be shown by a small raised H, as you can see in the examples. Most people have very little voicing going on while the lips are closed during either pi or buy. The degree of voicing in each of the stops, like b, d, g, depends on the context in which it occurs. Remember that in phonetics and phonology, when we say context, we mean when a sound is used in a word. When it is in the middle of a word in which a voiced sound occurs on either side, voicing usually occurs. So, as you can see in the third column, a buy, a die, a guy, voicing occurs throughout the stop closure because it is in the middle of a word in which you have a voiced sound before and after it. A, by, after b, you have a, and before b, you have a. So there are two vowels. Both of them are voiced. Therefore, they affect b, a by. You see, the degree of voicing in by and a by are different. Here, the degree of voicing differs. When we say a by, the degree of voicing is more than when we say by. So the words in the third column, we can say they have more voicing, or they are more voiced than the words in the second column. As I said, most speakers of English have no voicing during the closure of the so-called voice stops in sentence initial positions, or when they occur after a voiceless sound, as in, for example, that boy. When they happen in that boy, you can see that here, for some people, as I said, for some speakers of English, this be is voiceless. That boy, see, we don't have any kind of vibration. In this slide, you can see the waveforms of the words tie and die. It is quite easy to see the different segments in the sound wave. In the first word, tie, as you can see, there is a spike indicating the burst of noise that occurs when the stop closure is released. Just look at the beginning. It is indicated by noise burst, the very first spike. This is followed by a period of very small semi-random variations during the aspiration. If you pay attention in the part, it's written aspiration above it. You can see a very small semi-random variations. This is the period of voicelessness. And then a regular repeating wave as the vocal folds begin to vibrate for the vowel. This is vowel. Look at vowel onset for I. This is what happens for a word like tie. T. This is noise burst. T. After it, we have aspiration, period of voicelessness, and then ta. I. Here, you can feel the repeating wave as the vocal folds begin to vibrate for the vowel. I. Now, look at the second word, die. In die, the noise burst is smaller. Look at the beginning and compare it with t, noise burst of t and noise burst of d. Here, as you can see, the noise burst is smaller, and there is very little gap between the burst and the start of the wave for the vowel. In Thai, the aspiration, look at the distance between noise burst and vowel onset, the aspiration there. But here in Dai, this period of aspiration is very small. This gap is very small. As you can see, the major difference between Thai and Dai is the increase in time between the release of the stop and the start of the vowel. In fact, we discuss this distinction further in chapter 6. Now, look at this table. Consider the words in the fourth column. Are the sounds of the stop consonants more like those in the first column or those in the second column? Try to read it once for yourself. First column. Pi, tai, kai. Second column. Bai, dai, guy. And fourth column. Spy, sty, and sky. Now, can you tell me if the sounds of the stop consonants more like those in the first column or in the second column? Pie, buy, spy. Buy, spy. Pie, spy. Which one? Like those in the second column. Yes. If you pay attention, you can feel that pi, the sound p in pi, is not similar to the sound of p in spy. See? Pi, spy. The second one, spy, is similar to buy. This is the effect of the previous sound, s. Or for example, tie, die, sty. As you can see here, t in tie and sty, they are different. And k in kai and sky. Again, the quality of k in kai and sky, the quality is different. This is because of the effect of prior sound, which is se. English has words beginning with sp, st, or sk, s plus voiceless stop, and noun that begin with sb, sd, or sg. In fact, stops that occur after sound are really somewhere between p and b, or somewhere between t and between k and g. Actually, they are more like voiced stops b, d, g, in that they are completely unaspirated. So in the previous slide, we had, for example, pie and spy. The thing is that because in spy, p occurs after s sound, here this p is somewhere between p and b. Actually, it is more like b in that this p in spy is completely unaspirated. Or, for example, in tie and sty. When we say sty, this second sty, this t is somewhere between t and d because it is unaspirated. Or in kai and sky, again, in this sky, this k is somewhere between k and g, again because it is completely unaspirated. As in many cases, English spelling is misleading, and the sounds are in fact more like those in, for example, buy or die, when you say spy, or when you say, for example, sty. This figure shows the acoustic waveform in the word sty. You can see the small variations in the waveform corresponding to the fricative s at the beginning. Then t closure. As you can see, we have very small lines for the fricative noise s, and afterwards we have a straight line without any waves. So this is followed by a straight line during the period in which there is no sound, because there is a complete stop for t. If I want to say it, it is something like this. Sty, just the period before I release t. Sty. This period of silence is where you can see the straight line. Then this is followed by a sound wave very similar to that of d in the previous figure. Look at the noise burst, and then after noise burst we don't have any aspiration like in tie. It is more like die. If you pay attention, you can see after noise burst there is no aspiration, and afterwards immediately we have the vowel onset. If you have access to computer or even with your mobile phone, you can record sounds, and you can see the waveforms of words. Even in the CD, which is accompanied by the book, there is a software called Wave Surfer. You can install Wave Surfer and then record words such as spy or sty or sky, or for example steal, skill, spill. Try to record these words and find the beginning and end of each s sound. When you record it, then you play it and try to find the beginning and end of s, just like here we have it in the waveform. And then cut this part out using that software. When you play the edited recordings to others, ask them to write down the words that they hear. They will almost certainly write words like buy. When you cut, for example, the first part of spy, they hear buy. When you cut the first part of the word sty or the first part of sky, they will hear words like buy, die. Or, for example, for sky, they will hear guy. For spill, they will hear bill. For example, skill, they will hear gill. This is because here the voiceless stop is completely unaspirated. Therefore, it is similar to its voiced counterpart. Now, look at this table. What are the differences between the words in the 5th and 6th columns? The consonants at the end of nap, mat, knack are certainly voiceless, am I right? But if you listen carefully to the sounds at the end of the words like nap, mat, and knack, you may find that the so-called voiced consonants like b, d, and g at the end of nap, mat, and nag, they have very little voicing and might also be called voiceless. Listen again. Nap, mat, knack. Now compare, for example, b in nap with book. Compare d in mat with door. Or compare g in knack with gang. In the examples I gave you in the 6th column, nap, mat, and nag, you can see that although b, d, and g are voiced consonants, they have very little voicing. In fact, you can see that they are voiceless. The first difference is this, that final voiced consonants b, d, and g have very little voicing, that they could be called voiceless. What about another difference? Try saying these words separately. You can even say, for example, cap, and not open your lips for a considerable period of time if it were the last word of an utterance. In such circumstances, it is quite clear that the final consonants are not fully voiced throughout the closure. I will read them once again, and at this time try to listen to the vowel. Nap, nap. Mat, mat. Nag, knack. What about the length of the vowel? Vowel is much shorter before the voiceless consonants p, t, k than it is before the voiced consonants b, d, g. In fact, this is the major difference between the two columns. Listen again. Nap, nap, and nag. Which one is shorter? I mean the a before p or a before b. Nap, nap. Mat, mat. Knack, knack. As you can see, the length of the vowel is shorter before the voiceless consonants p, t, and k. That is in the 5th column. This is the second difference between the two columns. If you look at this waveform for the words mat and mad, you can see that the length difference is very evident in this figure. Look at the length of the vowels. This table shows the waveforms of mat and mad. In this occasion, the vowel in mat is almost twice as long as the vowel in mat. You can see small voicing vibrations during the in mat. But there is nothing noteworthy at the end of mat, except the slightly irregular voicing at the end of the closure. In fact, if you look at this figure, you can see that the first word is mat. You can see the voicing at the very beginning. Then we have a. Look at the length of a for mat, the one above, and now compare it with a in the second one, mat. This is what I told you before about the length of vowel. You can see that when a word ends with a voiceless stop like t, p, k, then the length of the vowel before it, like a here, is shorter. But when it ends with d, g, these are voiced stops, the length of the vowel before it, like in mat, a, is longer. Now, look at these two sentences. Take a cab now, take a cab now. If vowels are shorter before voiceless consonants, as in cap, than voiced consonants, as in cap, why saying the two sentences get the same length of time? Try comparing the length differences in these two short sentences. Take a cab now, take a cab now. If you say these sentences with a regular written, you will find that the length of time between take and now is about the same in both. Now, what is the reason? This is because the whole word cap is only slightly shorter than the whole word cab. The vowel is much shorter in cap than in cap, but the consonant p makes up for this by being slightly longer than the consonant b. So, although the vowel is shorter in cap, but the consonant p is slightly longer than b. Therefore, the length of p makes up for the shorter vowel before it. It is a general rule of English and of most other languages that syllable final voiceless consonants are longer than the corresponding voiced consonants after the same vowel. So this is the reason that when you say these two sentences, take a cab now and take a cab now, you feel that both of these two sentences get the same length of time. Try to compare what is happening for the final stops in take a cab versus take a cab now. Compare what happens to the final stop p. Or, for example, in these two sentences, take a cab versus take a cab now. Try to compare them. What about this sentence? Take a cat versus the cat pushed. Final stops are unreleased when the next word or consonant begins with a nasal or a stop. Therefore, we can say that final stops plus a nasal or plus a stop after it leads to an unreleased stop. As you can see, we use a diacritic above that sound in order to show that this sound, this stop, is unreleased. Look at this transcription. The cat pushed. If we want to perform the released one, we should say the cat pushed. But we say the cat pushed. The cat, here it is released. The cat, but here the cat pushed. As you can see here, t is unreleased. The cat pushed. This is true even within a word. Like for example, apt. We don't say apt. Here, because t is a stop and it comes after p, which is another stop, therefore p is unreleased. We say apt, not apt. So in fact, you can see that when I say apt, this releasing of the stop produces a somewhat unnatural pronunciation. Generally, final stops are unreleased when the next word begins with a nasal or when it begins with a stop, as you can see in these examples. Here is a question. If final stops before nasals and stops are unreleased, how the following words are distinguishable? Words like rap, rat, and rack. We say that p, t, and k are not released when they are before nasals or stops. But why is it that it is distinguishable? For example, you understand that I say rap, not rat, not rack. So there must be another difference. The difference in the sounds must be in the way that the vowels end. After all, the rest is silence. You hear nothing. So the consonants before and after a vowel always affect it. So there is a slight but noticeable difference in its quality. Compare your pronunciation of words such as pip, tit, and kick. Your tongue tip is up throughout the word tit, whereas in pip and in kick, it stays behind the lower front teeth. Now, in the examples I gave you about rap, rat, and rack, tongue tip is up in rap, rack, or rat. Try to pronounce it for yourself once. Rap, rat, rack. In which one the tongue tip is up? Yes, in rat, the tongue tip is up. In another one, back of the tongue is raised. Rap or rack. In which one back of the tongue is raised? Rack or rap? Yes, in rack, you can see that back of the tongue is raised. And the last one, lip gesture affect the vowel. Rap. You see that in all of these three words we have a, rat, rack, and rap. But a, the quality of a is different in a, in rat, and in rack, and in rap. In the last one, rap, you can hear that the gesture of my lip affects a. It is not a, it is a, like rap. As you can see, the difference is in the vowel. The consonant before it or and after it affects it. So as you can see, there is a slight and noticeable difference in the quality of a in rat, rack, and rap. In fact, the difference in the quality of the vowel here helps you to distinguish t, k, and p, and then understand the words. In fact, sounds like p, t, and k are not the only voiceless stops that occur in English. Many people also pronounce a glottal stop in some words. What is a glottal stop? A glottal stop is the sound, or to be more exact, the lack of sound, that occurs when the vocal folds are held tightly together. In fact, glottal stops occur whenever one coughs. Now, try to cough. Yes? What happens now? It occurs when the vocal folds are held tightly together. As we have seen, the symbol for a glottal stop is something like a question mark without a dot below it. Glottal stop makes a distinction when you mean yes or no. When you say no, you, for example, say something like this: ah. But when you say yes, it is something like this: uh-huh. So in we don't have a glottal stop, but in we have a glottal stop. Glottal stops frequently occur as allophones of t, or as variants of t. Probably most Americans and many British speakers have a glottal stop followed by a syllabic nasal in words such as beaten, kitten, and fatten. They pronounce it as bitten, or kitten, or fatten. Many speakers in both Britain and America have a glottal stop just before final voiceless stops in words such as rap, rack, and rat. In fact, they pronounce it like rap, rat, or rack. This is the glottal stop: rap, rap, rat, rack. In fact, London Cockney and many forms of estuary English also have a glottal stop even between the vowels, like in words such as butter, or kitty, or fatter. They say butter, or for kitty they say ki, or for fatter they say fat. It depends on different people and their accent, but you need to know that glottal stops frequently occur as variants of t, and also they occur just before final voiceless stops. So today we talked about stop consonants. First, we explained aspiration. Aspiration is a period of voicelessness after the release of the stop. It's the burst of air at the start of words like pie, tie, or kai. Next was se plus voiceless stop in words like spy, sty, and sky. If you remember, we said that stops that occur after se are somewhere between p and b, between t and d, and between k and g. Next, we talked about the length of vowels. We said that in words like, for example, nap and nab, the vowel is much shorter before the voiceless consonant, like, for example, p, t, and k, than it is before the voiced consonants like b, d, and g. Afterwards, we explained unreleased stops, like, for example, take a cap and take a cap now, or, for example, the cat versus the cat pushed. We said that final stops are unreleased when the next word or the next consonant begins with a nasal or a stop. And finally, we had a discussion on glottal stops. We said that a glottal stop is a variant of t. Okay, I think this is the end of this session. Goodbye, everybody.